Hi, I'm with the Real Milk Paint Company, founder and creator of Real Milk Paint. And today we're going to show you how to create what you just saw, a two-layering effect with the milk paint, with the underlayer peeking through. At the same time, we're going to show you how to create the wear around the hardware and different areas so that it has a more realistic effect. And one of the unique things about Real Milk Paint is that it is able to fade in and out really well. So over here we'll start with the first stage or first layer, and this is the salmon milk paint, which is the color underneath, and the top coat on this was moss green. So right now we have our salmon, and to mix the paint it's equal parts powder to water, and so we're going to pour some water out right in this container here. And that's 1 part powder. At this point I'm going to throw in a little bit of our anti-foam. A few drops will do, and what that helps to actually break the water up so that it doesn't, the hard water will mix better, and so that it doesn't want to foam up on you. So this particular color, salmon, tends to resist mixing with the water quite a bit. So we're going to try this little mixer here. I don't think you're going to want to watch the whole video while we mix, but we'll show a little bit of mixing. How this powder doesn't want to mix real well. And what we're using here is just a regular tabletop mixer, or you can use a milkshake mixer, and these work really well for small batches. So okay, we got this salmon color mixed, and this is our underlying color. It took about 3 or 4 minutes of stirring to mix this up. We got really no powder on the bottom. See, a little bit foamy. I'm not too concerned about that. If you let the paint sit overnight or mix it ahead of time, all that foaminess will disappear, and any chunkiness will also disappear. Now, the way I like to paint is I like to do the panels first, always basically following with the grain. I can go across grain here a little bit initially, but I'll come back and follow up with the grain. So what we're going to do is push this all in here. This was a fur 1930s built-in cover that was, I found at the local antique shop, and brought it home and put backboards in it and put feet on it, and it was the perfect fit for our house with a, really nice tall. It's like nearly 9 foot tall, and it'll fit in our 1892 house really well, and match the decor as well. So now we've got that inner panel. The next thing we want to do is get the rails right here. And you want to come up right to the point of where the rail stops, and you can go over just a little bit, but this is following with the grain of the material. Because what happens when we do our wear, if you don't follow with the grain of the material, you'll get brush marks that go the opposite way. I mean, maybe that's a little too fastidious, but to me, I notice those kind of things. Even though we're kind of doing a simulated aged effect, when you get close up, you'll notice all those things. So this is only our first coat of salmon. We actually would need 2 coats. And so the first coat, because this is water-based, will raise the grain some. And what we do is we let this dry, do a light sanding to get rid of the grain raising, and then we come back later and maybe thin the paint down just a little bit more, so that you're just doing a real thin wash over top of this, the color and any of the sanding, and then you'd be ready to go. And then what you'd want to do is you want to let this salmon paint cure overnight so that it's nice and well set for our second layer of moss green. So basically you can see how that all covered. That was just 1 coat. We would let that dry and then come back to that. But for the video purposes, we've got this side already painted. So, and the moss green, I have the moss green in the bucket here, and I'm just going to give it a quick stir, and then I'll show you. is the moss green. This has been setting up overnight. You can kind of see how it separates a little bit with the water on top, and that's just fine. When I'm doing large batches, using one of these paint stirrers works really well. And we're just going to get all the settled paint off the bottom, get that nice and stirred up. It only takes a minute or two. In this case, the paint seems about the right consistency. Sometimes I would add a little water to it if it's a little thick, but this looks to be really good at this point. So I'm just pushing down on the drill a little bit to get any stuff off the bottom. As my drill starts to lose power, right in the middle of the video. Isn't that always perfect? Anyway, here we go. I'm going to grab a brush here. Here's a new brush. I'm going to take this up. And this is that green paint. Now, I don't worry much about the chunkiness on the side here of the bucket. And you could pour this into another utensil or another container if you wanted. And a little splashing, I just picked that up. What we're going to do here is the same process. First I want to go inside the corners, the stiles of the rails, come around here. I read this in a book years ago about how professional painters do it. I don't know if this was true or not, but it always seemed to work well for me to hit this panel first, come in here, do those details in the middle, and then come back. And here I'm going to keep the paint a little bit heavier, so we're going to try to cover up all that orange color in one single coat. Pull that around there, trying not to leave too much puddling in the middle, and also picking up those brush strokes there. So we're going to come back across here, do the end grain, here, do this, across here. You can see this is the standard mix. There's nothing, no extra pigment, anything added to this. You can see that coverage. I prefer just cheap China bristle brushes. I use them for almost every project I do. They seem to work well. They hold the paint real well. They do eventually wear out. They leave some little hairs or fibers behind. To me, if I get a few fibers in my paint, there's one right there. Doesn't bother me as far as texture. Some people would pull the hinges off. This particular project, leaving the hinges on worked really well, so we left them on all the way through the stripping process. This original cabinet was painted with about 2 layers of white paint over top of a varnish, and we used a infrared stripper to take it off to heat the varnish up and remove the paint. You can see it's already starting to set up here and there and dry, and that's what we really need in order for the process to be able to wipe it down and do our gradation. Just going to touch up these edges here, and we're going to have to cut out here for a few minutes while this sets up, and then we'll come back, and when it's a little drier, and I'll show you how to do the wearing part, or distressing, with a damp cloth and a bucket of water, and how it's really simple and effective. And the milk paint, you have a pretty long open time as far as working it. The longer it actually stays dries, the harder it is to remove, but at the same time, it's still pretty easy to remove. Just going to get that bottom edge down there. I want to try to make sure I got all the orange covered. This is flashing off a little, so I might just take a little paint here and there, cover up all that salmon paint. Alright, we'll talk to you in just a minute.